Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Industry Insights, Day 4. Today, we are putting a spotlight on environmental and sustainability careers and the industry surrounding that. My name is Amanda Thompson. I'm the MD of Campus Media, and I'm joined here today by 4 different organisations who all play a very different part within the environmental and sustainability industry. In terms of the more information about the organisations, we're going to hear lots of advice over the next hour from them, and that advice is going to be spurred on by your questions. Underneath the video window, you will see there's a text box there. All you need to do to take part in the questions is pop a name in there. You could use your school name if you didn't want to use your personal name, and ask your questions, and we'll try our very best over the next hour to get those answered for you. Supporting the event, we also have a careers resources pack, which is available to download on the same page that you're viewing us on today. And that's further information about the 4 organisations and links to their careers pages as well, where if you're in year 11 or 13, you may already be in a position to make an application to one of their apprenticeship programmes. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers. Now we have Robin from Nestlé, who is our sponsor today, and we have Matthew from CIWEM, and Martha from WSP, and Azra from Anthesis. So we're going to go straight over to Robin now for a quick intro and more about Nestlé.
Thank you, Amanda. So Nestlé, the industry that we're in is food and beverage. And we're actually the largest food and beverage company in the world. And we've got something like 1,000 brands around the world, and you're probably aware of some of them. So if you like your confectionery, we've got Kit Kat, Quality Street, Aero. In terms of hot drinks, we've got Nescafe, Nespresso. If you like your cereals, we've got shredded wheat, Cheerios, and if you've got a pet, if you've got a dog, maybe your dog eats Bakers, or if you have a cat, maybe they eat Felix. So they're just some of the brands that we have. My role is I'm the responsible sourcing manager, which means that not only myself, but a whole load of people in the organisation work with our suppliers all the way back to farmers to really look at how can we improve our environmental and social impact. And that's things like how can we drive down our carbon footprint? How can we reduce our reliance on packaging and plastics? And how can we make sure that human rights are upheld throughout our supply chain? In terms of young people, we bring in apprentices every year. It's really, really important to us as an organisation that we bring through young talent. And what we also do is we make sure we really look after them as well. From the beginning, often they're coming straight from school and they're going, so this is the first time they've got any experience of working somewhere. So we put a lot of effort into supporting our apprentices as well. I'm sure we'll come on to discussing some of that later, but in the meantime, we have a short video about our apprentice scheme.
So an engineering apprentice takes over the electrical and mechanical roles in the factory and provides support to the operators for the machines.
That involves going on different college blocks and doing a lot of on-site work, so getting out in all the different departments.
The new standard of the apprenticeship as well means that we still get the opportunity to go have a bit of a student lifestyle and then come back to work and put our skills into play.
When I finish my apprenticeship, I'll be a qualified electrician. I'll be a mechanical engineer as well, so I'll be dual skilled, so I'll be able to do both disciplines. I think getting an apprenticeship, you'll get all the qualifications you want, but you'll get the experience and you'll have a job to go to and you'll be paid to do it.
When I was applying for it, I wouldn't say that I knew exactly what supply chain was. It was kind of, I knew it was the gist of making a product, getting it to the end customer, but the diversity of roles that you actually are in supply chain are under that bracket there are so many that you can do, and you're not narrowly like in supply chain, like that is 100% it. So my first role was packaging related, so working with marketing. My second role has been in a factory environment, which helps me become more resilient to everything. Bringing in loads of different products, working in a different area. So it was in beverage, which was fantastic. And then coming back to confectionery and working again with stakeholders that are abroad, which has just been fantastic. So I would definitely get someone else to apply for an apprenticeship for sure.
Good afternoon, I'm Matthew Jack. I actually have multiple roles, one of which is my paid day job, the other is a voluntary position. So in my day job I work for a large engineering firm called Sistra, where I work in the Environmental Services Department as the head of specialist services. But the main reason that I'm here today is for my voluntary role, which is a trustee or board member of the Chartered Institution of Water and Environmental Management, or CIWEM for short. So just a very quick background on myself. I came into the industry as an apprentice, but I was quite unusual in that prior to my apprenticeship, I undertook a degree through the traditional route before going into an apprenticeship in civil engineering. So as I say, I'm here representing CIWEM today. CIWEM are a professional body and a charity. And if you're unfamiliar with what a professional body is, I know I certainly was when I was in school, just about every profession that you can think of has a professional body representing it. The purpose of a professional body is to oversee the skills and competency of the members of that field. So a professional body can have numerous benefits, including providing network, continued professional development, overseeing competency, and they are also able to award industry qualifications. So you may have heard of chartered accountants, but pretty much every profession out there has its own chartership. So I, for example, am a chartered environmentalist, and I'm also a chartered water manager, both through CIWEM. People that I work with are chartered ecologists, chartered archaeologists, we have chartered geologists. The industry is so big and so varied that we need all sorts of different skills, competencies and professions to work with us to deliver large infrastructure projects. So CIWEM, as I say, offer a number of industry qualifications, including industry qualifications which are specifically targeted to apprentices. Our apprentice slash technician qualification is called Tech CIWEM. It's the first professional qualification that I received in my career before I went on to my charterships, and I will be looking to move on to my fellowship in the next couple of years. I believe we now have a video just giving a bit more of a background on who CIWEM are.
CIWEM.
I want to change things. I want to make a difference to the environment. I want to find my full potential. I want to use my full potential.
I want to be connected. I want to be respected. I want to have qualifications, CIWEM qualifications that set me out from the crowd so I can learn more, do more, and really make an impact.
I want to collaborate, be part of CIWEM and learn from others. Play my part in progressing the fight against climate change. Because I know the world faces issues that are bigger than any single person.
We need to grow our combined knowledge, share our ideas, our information and our networks. We need a community, a structure, and education, because together we can change things to create a better sustainable future for today, for tomorrow, forever. I can make a difference. We can make a difference. We, CIWEM.
Hi, I'm Martha and I'm a degree apprentice for WSP. WSP is one of the UK's leading environmental and engineering consultancy firms. As a degree apprentice, I sit within the environmental sector. This means that I have the opportunity to rotate between lots of the different teams that environment has to offer at WSP. This could range from ecology to cultural heritage to environmental assessment and consents and even sustainability. This gives me a great insight into what the industry does and the opportunity to specialise when I complete my degree in 3.5 years. We now have a short video to show what apprentices at WSP love about their job.
Connor and Nichols, take one.
Terrible. Terrible. Okay, it's my fault.
Yeah. Connor and Nichols, take one.
Both Connor Prosser and Nicol Innes are apprentices at WSP, and today we'll be talking about just how committed WSP are to the personal development of all their people, especially when it comes to giving their young talent the experience and learning opportunities they need to reimagine their careers. To kick us off, I'm going to ask both of you to give me a bit of an introduction. Just give me your name, your role, what you do.
My name's Connor and I work in this lovely Birmingham office. Well, I'm actually classed as an apprentice still, so technically my role varies quite a bit from day to day, but primarily I work in the comms team.
So my name is Nicol Innes. I sit in the London Structures team as a rivet technician. I'm a part of the degree apprenticeship scheme. I go to uni 1 day a week, and for the rest of the week, which is 4 days, I work in office.
So Connor, what about you? Like, how do you see your journey inside WSP?
So yeah, Mr. Naismith, watch his face.
No. Connor Naismith has got a ring to
it. Looking to want to pursue into university next year, marketing degree, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So if you were to sum up your apprenticeship journey so far in a few sentences, Nicol, what would you say?
I would say it's just been really, really tremendous. Working on projects and seeing them in real life, there is a great fulfillment in that. And my friends, you know, they might pass a building and they'll go, yep, that's Nicol's building. So yeah, it's just a great feeling, really.
Are you going past like the Shard and telling them, yeah, guys, I worked on that. I mean, I was young at the time, but yeah, my name's not on the building or on any of the plans, but it was very much my project.
I don't go that far, but I go, yep, that's WSP's building.
And obviously, it's been a pretty weird couple of years for everyone, and as a result, WSP has spent an awful lot of time thinking about their people's well-being, but then also responding to the changes in the workplace. How do you think they've done, Connor, in terms of looking after your well-being, making sure that you're supported while still growing and stretching and also having a bit of flexibility around your work-life balance?
Your well-being is first at WSP. You know, if you're stressed, they'll say, like, why are you stressed? Is it workload? Is it personal reasons? And it's just nice to know that the company's got your back always.
When it comes to planning your own career as an apprentice, you can't leave it to someone else somewhere else. You have to take ownership of it yourself. Do you feel, Nicol, like you can craft and shape your career here inside WSP, that you can set your own ambition and navigate it personally?
When I first started in the business, I had sort of one goal, which was to be a technician, because at the time, that was what I saw myself doing. But as I started learning new stuff, I said, wait, I can go maybe a step further, and, you know, having that discussion with my manager and even just ordinary staff, I sort of like planned my way through what I want to do, and WSP is fully behind that. Even now, sometimes I might say, you know, I want to do this. My manager will go, no, go a step further with that. So yeah, they do give you that freedom to express yourself and grow.
Well, it has been great chatting with these two young professionals starting out on their exciting career journeys. Connor and Nicol have already been involved in work with real-world impact. Just imagine what they'll do next. Do you wanna? What do you want to do? Head up engineering? Do you want to be the king of the rivets?
Not yet. I had a joke with one of the senior guys. I said, I want to be a rivet ninja. But yeah.
And do you know what's funny? A couple of weeks ago, I watched a documentary about how ships are held together. It was riveting. Come on, that's funny. Shut up, you. Right, Carol, you do a joke.
Hi, I'm Asra Ahmed and I work as part of the HR team at Anthesis. Anthesis is a global sustainability consulting firm. We have 5 offices based in the UK and we work with big name clients such as the likes of Nestle, the North Face, Cisco, many others to help them sustainably eliminate 3 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions on their transition to net zero. Apprenticeship schemes are something that we highly encourage. We are always on the lookout for new talent and it's something that we are very proud of. I myself am doing a level 5 apprenticeship qualification to further my HR career. We have a video now which will give you a bit more of an insight into Anthesis and what we do.
They say we are the first generation to have all the facts in front of us.
And we are the last generation that can do anything about it.
Knowing what we now know.
Why are we still moving so slowly?
We are Anthesis,
the Sustainability Activator.
And we have no intention of standing still.
From Europe
to the Americas,
from the Middle East
to Asia Pacific.
We are the largest group of sustainability experts in the world.
Because tackling systemic challenges
needs joined up thinking.
But what size without substance?
Where others have talked, we've delivered.
Thousands of projects and counting.
Passionate people working together.
Tirelessly.
Seamlessly.
Across borders and time zones.
For our clients.
To drive sustainable performance.
We shape education and culture.
We help cities to cut carbon and waste.
We make sustainable supply chains simple.
We've strengthened transactions and investment strategies.
We make products and services sustainable.
We amplify impact.
Through better branding and communications.
And where a solution doesn't exist,
our tech team will build one.
From analytics to action.
We are creating more productive and resilient communities.
Organizations.
Ecosystems.
And people.
Because the world doesn't need slow.
The world needs action.
So that was a great introduction to the 4 different organisations here. And as you can see, they are all very different. And environmental and sustainability it's a great industry because, like Anthesis, you could be a company that's solely dedicated to reducing carbon emissions for companies, or a company like Nestle, where you're food and beverage, but environmental and sustainability plays a really big part in what you do. There's never been a more exciting time to join this industry because it's rapidly evolving, and you've probably heard in the news lots of people talking about net zero, but it's every company's priority within the country to ensure that they are reducing their carbon footprint as much as possible. And so I want to come over to Martha now at WSP to explain a little bit more about what net zero is and what a carbon footprint is, and why having people in organisations that manage that and look after that is so important.
So net zero is all about the balance between the carbon emissions that go out into the atmosphere, or greenhouse gas emissions in general, and then those that we can remove. At WSP, we have a Future Ready team, and this team focuses on ensuring that our buildings and our infrastructure, our road, our rail, isn't just being built with the view for the next 10 or 20 years, but the next 100 and 150 years, that the materials we're using will last that amount of time, and that it's not only just about sustainability, but also accessibility and how people and the way that we interact with our environment might change in the future. Brilliant. And in terms of from CIWEM's point of view, so how, being a member of CIWEM, have you
learnt to use what you've gained the qualifications in putting that into practice at the organisation that you're in now, Matthew?
Yeah, sure. So SciWEM are a body that is dedicated to lifelong professional development and learning. So through SciWEM, we offer dozens and dozens of training courses in all aspects of environment and sustainability. And also, as I mentioned before, the competency overview for qualifications such as Tech SciWEM or Chartership. And through those peer-reviewed qualifications, you are able to utilise the learning, not just from training courses, but also in your day-to-day job. I've worked for a number of different companies in the industry. As I say, I'm currently at Sistra and learning lots of new things just at the moment. And it's really about a whole career journey. You don't stop learning when your apprenticeship is finished. You don't stop learning when you leave university. You don't stop learning at the end of your graduate development programme. They're, well into your 50s, 60s and beyond in some cases. You are always learning, and you learn something new every day. And that is what SciWEM is all about, bringing that together and bringing together a network of professionals who can help to deliver that.
Excellent, thank you. And Robin, you've been in at Nestlé for 28 years now. Environmental and sustainability is brand new, really, in the great grand scheme of things, that careers within this field have just exploded, really. And organisations are really behind this with huge force now. So you must have seen a massive deal of change that's happened with Nestlé over the years that you've been there.
Yeah, sustainability was something that up until 5 years ago, there were a few people who would talk about it in the organisation, but generally it wasn't considered as part of doing normal day-to-day business, and not just in Nestlé. This is most industries the same. And but now more and more organisations are realising that you do have to think about your environmental and your social impact, and what can you do to achieve net zero, as Martha was talking about. And not only that, I mean, in an industry like mine, there's so much plastics and packaging. How do you reduce that impact as well? So some of the things in the food industry, the single biggest thing we can do, which we never even thought about, was work with our farmers on what we call regenerative agriculture. And that's about our farmers not only minimising putting carbon into the atmosphere, but actually you can take a lot of it out of the atmosphere, put it in the ground. If you change your farming practices, that means actively understanding who your farmers are, but then working with them. But that's one example. But to do this, you need different thinking, you need fresh thinking. And this is one of the reasons why it's great having young people, apprentices, coming into an organisation like ours, because they will challenge why we do it one way, why aren't we doing it a different way, and they come up with all these new ideas. So we're looking for young people who can help that transition as we incorporate sustainability more and more into day-to-day business thinking.
Can I possibly make a comment on that as well? So an important point to note is that environment and sustainability is not entirely just about carbon and greenhouse gases. So I've worked in the flooding industry in the past, and when you talk about farmers there, one of the things that we look at with flooding is how land use can be better set out to prevent flooding. So for example, if you've got a sheep field next to a river that's prone to flooding, those sheep will compress the ground and cause more flooding. Whereas if you put cereal crops with very aerated roots, the water will then go into the water table, not into the river, and reduce that flooding. So it's a whole holistic area to look at.
Yeah, without spending too much time on farming, but just the regenerative agriculture is exactly that. It's holistic. It's not just carbon or water, it's also biodiversity. And you have to incorporate everything together.
And I mean, perfect, because also environmental and sustainability is huge within the farming and agricultural industry as well. So it's not just the industries that we have here represented today. This environmental and sustainability affects everybody. And all organisations will have somebody responsible within their company who looks after that. And some of those departments will be bigger than others. And also because it's such a, I want to say, relatively new area to work in the great grand scheme of things, it is. And so you will find when you do lots of research now into the organisation, into the industry of environmental, you will find that there's lots of organisations that haven't been around that long, but they are there purposefully for fixing other companies' environmental and sustainability needs, such as Anthesis, for example. So somebody's asked the question that they're unfamiliar with Anthesis, but obviously the companies that you work with, Nestlé being one of them, are very familiar to us. And so what does an apprentice or a graduate coming into Anthesis do as a consultant?
So Anthesis has been going since 2013. So yeah, we are kind of, I guess, in the comparison of Nestlé and other organisations, we are relatively new, but we are, as I said, growing exponentially. And we have been fortunate enough to work with large organisations. So as an apprentice coming into Anthesis, you would be supported by our consultants, our senior consultants. You would be meeting with clients to take in briefs, and then, to be briefed on kind of what they are wanting your services for. Whether that be to tackle their food waste, whether that be to look at their plastics and packaging, etc. So you will have hands-on experience. It doesn't mean that just because you're considered someone with less experience of just come into the sustainability industry that you'd be treated as kind of doing the coffee run or something like that. You will have great opportunity to have hands-on experience and then build your career from that.
Wonderful. Thank you for clarifying that. Before we went on air today, I was having a chat with Martha about how and why she decided to do an apprenticeship and why she chose to do it with WSP. And so I'd like you to share that, Martha, actually, because I thought it was incredibly inspiring. And we very often get asked, how can I make myself stand out on my application? I'm still at school, I don't have the work experience, so how can I really shine? So I'd like to ask you that question, please, Martha.
Yeah, so there were a few catalysts that helped me make my decision to do a degree apprenticeship, and not just an apprenticeship, but one in the environmental sector. I think the first one was when I was in year 9 or 10, so a similar situation to some of you students watching today might be. I attended an investing conference because I was under the impression that I wanted to go into engineering. At this conference, I was introduced to urban design and this concept called PaveGen, and it's pavement slabs that are placed in areas of high footfall and flex under pressure, generating energy via electromagnetic induction. This really sparked an interest, and when given the opportunity to explore something further at A-levels when completing an extended project qualification, which is like half an A-level for those of you that don't know, I was able to design and build my own miniature sustainable town and research PaveGen and urban design in more detail. This opportunity made me realise that it was an industry I wanted to be in because I was passionate and captivated by the relationship between the built environment and our natural environment. Also, I did work experience for WSP, which is my company now. I was in year 12 and 13 when COVID hit, so unfortunately, in-person work experience wasn't an option. I decided to do some research and went for virtual work experience, and that's when I came across WSP. Being in contact with a recruiter via the virtual work experience opportunity made my name known and got my foot in the door at the company. Therefore, when I applied to be a part of the apprenticeship scheme, they knew who I was, as I'd already been involved with them in the past. So I'd highly recommend doing virtual work experience or in-person work experience if you have the opportunity.
That's excellent. And Azra, you mentioned earlier that Anthesis do offer work experience as well to all young people who want to find out more and get involved.
Yeah, so we offer work experience placements for school leavers, so anyone between the ages of 16 to 18 years old. They would be up to 2-week placements, but during that time you have the opportunity to attend meetings with large clients of ours. You have first-hand availability to speak with senior members within the organisation and kind of learn from them and have a think about where you could take your career in the future. So they're really, really great pieces of experience to have on your CV.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, Matthew, we've got a question in for you. So, they want to know, if you could go back in time, which apprenticeship would you take now? I think that's relating to the fact that you did a degree first.
Yeah.
And then you didn't go into, you had a job, a part-time job? Or?
Yes, so my own situation, while I was at uni, I was working in a supermarket. I ended up working there for 6 years because it wasn't until I was 23 years old that I eventually found out about apprenticeships. When I was in school, they didn't really tell us any detail about apprenticeships. As a member of the top set, I was very much pushed down the university route. So it wasn't until I was 23 that I found out that you could even do an apprenticeship in civil engineering. In terms of going back in time, I honestly wouldn't change anything, to be completely honest. The way that my career has evolved and grown, it doesn't matter really that much where you start. It more matters what you do once you get that start. And I do appreciate that getting that start in the first place can be quite difficult, especially, we have socioeconomic factors behind that as well. But once I'd got into the industry, I moved around a lot and did a lot of what I wanted. So I've worked in pollution remediation, I've worked in flood defence, I've worked in highways, rail, strategic consulting, water and wastewater treatment works, decarbonisation, literally dozens of different fields, and it's always been what's interested me, and I've always had the opportunity to do that. And one of the ways in which I have been able to do that is linking back to Martha's answer a minute ago, continuing to do extracurricular activities during my career. So as I say, I've got a day job that I get paid for, but I also sit on CIWEM's board as a voluntary position. I sit on the board of an SME, again, as a voluntary position. I volunteered for a charity called Engineers for Overseas Development for a number of years, which afforded me the opportunity to go out to Uganda and to build a medical testing centre over there. That then led on to me winning the Young Environmentalist of the Year award, which led on to me joining the board of CIWEM, which allowed me to become junior president of CIWEM, and so on and so on. So it's all just built up from that initial, quite innocuous day when I was scrolling through job adverts and found a job for civil engineering. I do consider myself very, very lucky. So to go back to the original question, I wouldn't change anything.
And do more internet searches.
Yes. Maybe if they told me a bit more in school about the options.
Yeah. I think apprenticeships have changed drastically over the last 10 years and radically over the last 5 years. You can do an apprenticeship now of varying levels, all the way up to a master's level 7 in almost any industry. And in terms of how organisations evolve apprenticeships into their business and look after them to grow them with the business as well. How do Nestlé keep your apprentices as part of a community? How do you work with them and support them on an ongoing basis?
So we have apprenticeship schemes where you have a choice. You can either choose to go into something very specific. You will have seen on the video people working in the factories and then be quite technical, sort of engineering type apprenticeships. That's great, or supply chain if you want to do that. If you want to have a broader business experience, you can also do that. And we have a business degree, and then you spend, it's good because you spend sort of 6 months in marketing, 6 months in sales, 6 months in HR, 6 months in supply chain. So you move around and you work out what you want to do. And then what the business does in terms of supporting is to say, well, you've tried all these different things. What is your passion? What's the area that you're most interested in, having experienced all of these different ones? And then we will then support that person into that route that they want. So you could end up being, I mean, we talk about either being a specialist or a generalist, and you can go one of, I mean, I'm a generalist. I've tried lots of different things. I think what the other thing is that we're always, it's a proper job right from day one, and you still have training. 20% of the time is off the job training, but actually the other 80%. And therefore you have a line manager, you have appraisals, you talk about where are your development areas, you'll go on courses if you need to develop specific areas. But the other thing we say to apprentices, and I see it all the time, is that you don't have to have the word leader in your title to be a leader. And I'll give you an example. Only last Friday, we've got an apprentice up in our factory, our Nescafe factory in Cumbria, and we had a visit from the local MP. So this is a big deal, having an MP coming to visit. And Megan, our apprentice, she ended up leading a lot of that session because she's doing a lot of work with our farmers around the factory and was able to talk about it. So, we if people want to flourish, and we will allow them to flourish. There are others who, they're quite quiet and they just want to get on with their job. Fine, then we'll support them through that. So, bring your whole self and being the kind of person you want to be, we will support that.
That's great to hear, and actually echoes from the other employers that we've heard from during the week. Is it's so important to be yourself and to be comfortable in your own skin in the job. A rotational programme is quite unusual for an apprenticeship scheme. We see a lot of that in graduate programmes. So that's quite revolutionary in the fact that you're offering a rotational programme at apprenticeship level. So I assume then once they've completed the whole rotations, they then get to decide on an area that they can then specialise in.
That's right.
Excellent. So you almost get to try before you buy kind of thing. And so once they've gone into a specific area, and what's the flexibility then to move and grow with the organisation?
Well, I mean, I've been, in my time, in that 28 years, I'm in my 12th role now. So normally every 2 to 3 years, you've got the opportunity to move. And then again, it's just trying to find the right role for you that works for the business and works for you. So sometimes it's a timing thing. Obviously, you still have to perform. So there's an element of you've got to achieve, certain expectations, but they're not like really massive expectations. It's just, and then also, I mean, one of the good things about being an international company is that you have the opportunity to go abroad as well. So again, we have apprenticeship schemes not only in the UK and in some countries, apprenticeship schemes have been they've been in place a lot longer, haven't they? So so that's encouraged all around the world. So there's that opportunity as well.
That's great. And I saw you nodding when Martha was talking about her application to WSP and how she made herself stand out in the application, which is exceptional. It's great. What do Nestlé look for in their apprenticeship candidates? Because obviously you're still in academia, and I know what you're probably thinking. I don't know what to put on a CV. And actually right now, most employers don't look at a CV. Applications are all done via their websites, and they're looking for different things. So
yes, yeah, I think at this stage you're not really looking for sort of technical skills and things because, as you said, you're probably still at school. We look for evidence, if possible, of attitudes, behaviours. So if you've done, I don't know, if you've done something like Operation Raleigh. What's the Prince's Trust? Duke of Edinburgh.
Yep.
That's the thing. So that kind of thing where you can see, you can evidence that you've done something that's over and above. You're looking for. We talked about passion earlier. Examples. If there's something you're really passionate about, if that can be evidenced, if you can give examples of, we look for tenacity is a good one, and courage. So there's different, because I mean, courage, the reason I mentioned that is that, so I talked about challenging the status quo, particularly when it comes to environmental, social, sustainability. We have to change as businesses, and therefore we need people to come in and challenge and ask the right questions. So it's having we're looking for curiosity, questioning mindset, that kind of thing. So if there's ways to evidence that through the application process, that then gets you noticed.
Great. I've just had a cracking question in actually. Is it possible to do engineering and still be considered sustainable? Absolutely. And I'm going to go straight over to Martha for that one. Matthew, I know you're within an engineering company as well, and your role is within environmental and sustainability, but WSP is heavily involved in engineering.
Yeah, so WSP, a really special company because we put sustainability at the forefront of everything. We have a lot of engineers at WSP, but obviously we have our sustainability team, and all projects that we're working on have to hit those sustainability standards. So as an engineer, there are certain standards you'd have to hit with sustainability. But again, challenging the status quo is something that is encouraged at WSP. So if you're sat there and you think, you know what, we could do this better as an engineer and make it more sustainable, that would be taken on board really well by your project manager or your seniors on your project, so you can definitely be sustainable as an engineer and think about the environment in your day job.
Wonderful, thank you. Asra, I've got a question in that I'm going to come to you for, because we've had a careers teacher wants to know, are there any particular subjects that students should opt to take or should be studying if they want a job within environmental and sustainability? So within HR, do you look for certain subjects?
Within HR, more so kind of possibly if you're looking at A-level students, then business-related subjects. But for our consultants, subjects such as geography seem to be more favoured. But having said that, just to kind of echo Robin's point, we're not specifically looking for, you to come in with strong experience. I mean, it is more so you being able to demonstrate that you have that passion for sustainability. I mean, our hiring managers, they're not there to catch you out. So, when you do have interviews for our apprenticeship positions or our junior consultant roles, then they're more so looking for you to demonstrate that you are going out of your way to show that you have an interest and a passion in sustainability. You could get involved in some extracurricular activities to demonstrate that. That's also a really good way for you to kind of present yourself in front of employers, and that's something that Anthesis very much values.
I think because you can't study any GCSE or, maybe A-levels, you can actually take an A-level within environmental and sustainability. People are quite keen on the transferable subjects that could work in their favour. Matthew, was it yourself that mentioned the subjects that you took that actually you favoured more, that got you into environmental?
One important thing to point out is just how wide-ranging both sustainability and environment are. So sustainability is not just environment. Sustainability is economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and all sorts of other stuff. So in my team, I have geologists, land quality, archaeologists, cultural heritage, people and population health. One of the classic environment projects is an EIA, which is an environmental impact assessment, and this is within engineering. So any piece of infrastructure that gets built, so HS2, a motorway, a sewage treatment works, will all require an environmental impact assessment. And to get that signed off, you need consent. So you need noise specialists, you need air quality specialists, land remediation specialists, ecologists, landscape architects. I'm doing a disservice to any others that I haven't mentioned there, but whenever I've managed an EIA, there's probably been 15 disciplines that are contributing to that. So when we say about the specific GCSEs to get into the industry, it can be anything. Because there's so many different roles and different projects. I think somebody gave me a stat at Sistra the other day. We have 32 different professional bodies that are represented within environment and sustainability.
Wow.
So obviously the best one of those is CIWEM, but all those ones that aren't quite as good as us are very important as well. Maths, English and science are always going to be high on the agenda, but my degree's in history and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So
Can I just build on?
Absolutely.
In terms of the point you made, is absolutely right about sustainability is the social as well. And actually now more and more with the growing inequalities in the world and everything, we've got companies like ours and others who are looking at community impact and how they can help the local communities that they're in. And, in our instance, being a food company, food redistribution, that kind of thing is important. But so any examples, again, anything that you've done that's helping volunteering, charities, anything like that, again, is something that, to your question earlier about how can you show, what you're doing, that's a great way to do it.
Extra things to build up your work experience, really, and that's just to be able to use that, those transferable skills in interviews and assessment centres and as part of the application. And I appreciate we've not touched much on application processes because every company has its own unique application process. And thank you to WSP actually, who are in the chat right now. They've just posted an email address to email if you're interested in work experience at WSP. And I'll read that out for our on-demand viewers. It is uk-STEM@WSP.com. And that's where you can email there if you're to find out more about work experience programmes. But in terms of the application process then for at Nestlé, we've heard this week about psychometric testing, competency-based quizzes, gamification. How do you do it at Nestlé?
Again, it can be slightly different depending on the schemes that people are applying for. But generally speaking, you get the application in. There's usually a first round interview, which is often it can be over the phone or a Teams type meeting. And then the second one will be face to face. Sometimes we'll do assessment centres, but actually we're finding actually that they don't work as well as they used to. And maybe that's just the way society is changing. I think COVID has had an impact on people and how they interact in those sort of situations. So assessment centres, we still do them, but they're not probably as much as we used to. But then we don't have a long drawn out process. A couple of interviews or sessions, and then hopefully the job will be given after that.
Great. And Martha, what was your application process like? 'Cause I know it can be daunting to apply for a job and then go to interview, and for many apprentices it's their first interview experience as well. How did you find it?
So my application process had a few stages. The initial questioning, which was about 3 or 4 questions about why I wanted the job, why I thought I'd be good at the job, any extracurricular activities I'd been involved in, and then just a chance to showcase what I'd done at A level and up to that point. After that stage, depending on the company that you're applying for, but for WSP, there was a short round of situational based questions, how you'd react if someone in your team wasn't pulling their weight, and it gave you like an A, B, C, and your answers were, you would answer based on how you would react, and they'd take that data and process it. If you were successful at that point, we then had an app that we downloaded on our phone, and that was more like a psychometric test, like a game, and it was puzzles, really simple puzzles, but the time to complete it got faster and faster. So it's to see how you'd react under pressure, because obviously a career in the environment and engineering and consultancy, you're dealing with deadlines a lot. So they need to ensure that you're employing people that can act well under pressure and won't just stress out and really, really panic. Final stage was then the interview stage, and that was on Teams because COVID was still kind of around when I was interviewing. But that was a really nice process, and it was less of a sitting down and just drilling questions at me, but more of a conversation. And I had a few interviews for different companies, but I've got to say I enjoyed the WSP interview the most. It's weird to say you enjoyed an interview, but I really enjoyed it because it was a conversation about what I'd done up to that point in my life and what I hoped to do if I was successful at WSP.
Sorry, one other thing I meant to say is that we have a volunteering programme at work, and we as we volunteer with schools to help employability skills training and how you would go about applying for roles and what you need to do and how we'd support the students in terms of how you would maybe go through an interview process. So that's something that for schools on here, if they're interested in, I'm sure we could find a way to link
my
to
word,
that.
that's like you just read that question coming in there. So one of the schools has asked the question, do you as organisations visit schools and give careers talks? And Azra, I'm going to go over to you.
Yeah, so yes, we do. So that is part of our, one of our task forces as part of our diversity and inclusion initiatives as well. We like to target schools specifically with a large proportion of underrepresented students from underrepresented backgrounds, but we talk to them about careers in sustainability, whether that be through the traditional route of getting a degree and then applying for one of our graduate roles or an apprenticeship scheme. But it's definitely something that we push forward at Anthesis. And sorry, what was there a second part of that question?
Yeah, in terms of visiting schools, there's thousands of secondary schools in the UK and colleges, and for any employer, I know Anthesis is a global company, but for any employer, regardless of how many locations you've got within the UK, it's just impossible to get round every single school. So employers have to be incredibly strategic in terms of where they designate time to be able to go into schools and how much of the virtual events like this they do where they can get the message across in one go and reach thousands of schools. So yeah, do you do careers talks at schools? Do you talk about Anthesis and what your organisation does?
Yeah.
And the second part of that question was, you obviously see lots of applications coming in. What stands out on an application for you? How can somebody really showcase their other skills?
So I have interviewed for a couple of our apprentices who are currently working with us. So I guess what we look for is, like it was mentioned before, the transferable skills. We look for that tenacity. We look for them to demonstrate that they've gone out of their way to show a passion for the sustainability industry. But we have apprentices working at Anthesis who work within our IT team, who work within, we have a junior HR apprentice, we have apprentices for within our finance team. So it's not just solely for our consultants, but we are looking for that passion for them to demonstrate that they are interested in the subject that they are applying for. And that's for them to show that they've kind of gone out of their way to demonstrate that. But also for the apprentices that I've been part of the interview panel for, what they were asked to do, so similar to Martha's route, they were asked to record a short video of themselves, kind of demonstrating why they were interested in the role, but also for them to provide responses to some competency-based questions. And I think they had to undergo psychometric testing. So we work with apprenticeship training providers who then kind of source through tons of applications, I'm sure, and then present us with a short list. And then it's over to us to kind of conduct interviews with them, and the hiring manager then ultimately makes the decision.
Wonderful, thank you. I have got a really interesting question come in now, maybe a teacher and a parent. So what is the long-term earning potential? They have a child who's really obsessed with sustainability, but they don't feel it's a secure industry to work in. So, Matthew, I'm going to start with you on that one.
Well, I'd strongly disagree with that statement. So I don't want to give away my own salary on here, but it's not bad. Graduate starting salary, my company Sistra is I think between 29 and 31k. After 10 to 15 years experience, probably double around that, and then from there you go down multiple different career routes, and obviously it all depends on the individual. But there's plenty of people in the industry that are on around the 35 to 40 pound an hour mark, and as you get more senior than that, considerably more.
And I'd say it's a very secure industry to work in, because it's exploded over the last 5 years, and it's only going to get more and more vital as companies reach that deadline of net zero. Lots of companies have pledged to reach net zero by 2030, and that's just around the corner. Robin, so, secure careers at Nestlé within environmental and sustainability.
Yeah, I would actually, I'm getting hesitant to even say sustainability industry anymore, because it's going to be embodied in everything that we do. So it's almost like a way of working now, and having a sustainable mindset.
Yep.
And therefore, but as businesses, there is the technical element of, well, how do you get your carbon down? So you need we will need technical experts. You need lots of people who are able to, if you've got skills in terms of being able to evaluate numbers and all of that kind of thing, that's going to become more and more important. But as we said, we touched on already on the social side of things. So like big companies with big supply chains, what you're doing in terms of human rights and working with suppliers and all of that side of things. It was touched on diversity and inclusion. That actually fits within sustainability, and how do we get more diverse workplaces. So all of this is it's getting more and more important, and therefore the salaries of the roles that you're doing they're in line with everything else. So yeah, I know full well that in my business you can make a fair amount of money in this area, and I think, yes, money is obviously important to some people, but actually the satisfaction that you get from working in a business when you know you're making a positive impact to people and planet, that job satisfaction you get is going to, for a lot of people, more important than actually the money that they make.
I totally agree. We're really nearly to time. I want to end by asking Martha a question, actually, in terms of, obviously you're just starting your apprenticeship, really, and is it the degree apprenticeship route you're on, and you're in your first year, second year?
In my second year.
Second year. What do you know now that you wish you'd have known then, before starting the apprenticeship programme?
I would say the biggest thing I wish I knew then was I was very hesitant about degree apprenticeships because you don't get to choose the university that you attend. There's a university affiliated with the apprenticeship route. And I had it in my mind from a young age I wanted to go to a Russell Group university. And when I found out the university associated with this apprenticeship wasn't Russell Group, I was very hesitant, and it did worry me. But then when you look at it in greater detail, the universities that provide these apprenticeships are the best for the job. They've helped make the standards for the apprenticeships. Look at those knowledge, skills and behaviours that you will achieve at the end of your completion of apprenticeship. So you don't need to worry about the university, and the 5 years of invaluable workplace experience you're gaining would outweigh that. And I think looking at universities and saying it's Russell Group and it's not is quite an old way of thinking now, especially with the amount of early careers opportunities there are in apprenticeships and the different levels that are offered in all industries. So don't hold back if you're worried about the stigma attached to an apprenticeship. Challenge the status quo and do what you're interested in. Don't listen to what other people might think.
And we did touch on this yesterday, actually, during our parent hour. There is a stigma still attached to apprenticeships. People have, usually older generations, like my generation, have in their mind that people who are less academic will go down an apprenticeship route. Matthew's proven that completely contrary. He went down the academic route and actually went back to an apprenticeship route because that's where his personal choice took him. But in terms of Nestle then, degree versus apprenticeships, obviously you work with both, graduates coming in and apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships as well. What's the difference?
We're actually finding that many of the apprentices are doing as well, if not better, than the graduates. And it comes back to, we've touched on it earlier, but it's about mindset and people wanting to learn and wanting to do their best. And sometimes we've found in the past, as well as with graduates, that sometimes they have an expectation that they're going to be CEO in 3 years or something. And I don't know, we find that less so with the apprentices, that they're wanting to learn, but they don't have, and of course they're ambitious, but they don't expect to be running the business in 2 or 3 years, and they want to learn. And that's one of the big differences we see between the two.
Great, wonderful. Yeah. That is all we have got time for. Thank you so much for your questions. We had loads in, and I'm so sorry if we didn't get round to them all. Thank you to all of our speakers. Really pleased that you could spare the time to impart your advice to everybody at home. I'd like to thank CIWEM for hosting us, loving the living wall that we've got going on here as well. And stay tuned for tomorrow's Industry Insights, where we will be putting a spotlight on all careers within public services. Many thanks for watching.